Hey there, Walt from WaltInPA, and well, new season, big changes. I traded in my Honda CB650F for this beauty. It's a 2022 Yamaha MT-09, and I can do the full walk around right now, mostly because the dealership forgot to put the license plate on it last night when I left. So I'm running back over right now to have them pull the plate off my old bike and put it on the new one. That tail section is obnoxious though. That's massive. That'll eventually be going. So a little bit of backstory. I put a deposit down on a 2021 MT-09 SP back on like October 8th, I think it was. And it's been a waiting game ever since. In fact, the MT-09 I ordered was one that the dealership placed an order for in March of 2021. So they had been waiting that whole time. They had been waiting on two MT-09 SPs and two base model MT-09s. And I think they may have even ordered a couple of MT-07s, but Yamaha just wasn't shipping product. And the bikes just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and it was very, very frustrating. We had the status update on this bike was updated at least 4 times, and it seemed like every time we were getting close to the anticipated ship date, it would push back another month. So it was kind of frustrating, but in the grand scheme of things, I only had to wait 5 months. I've seen people on like the FZ forums that have been waiting much, much longer than that. So I consider myself fortunate that I was able to get my hands on one, and I'm really eager to get used to this, because it is a considerable change from my 2018 Honda CB650F. All right, back to the dealership I go. All right, so there's 17 miles on this bike. The dealership is probably 5 miles from my house. It was getting dark when I bought the bike, so I came right home. I was at the dealership a lot longer than I anticipated. So I really haven't gotten a chance to spend much time on it. But I wanted to do a quick video on my very first, first impressions. And it's quite different than the Honda in several different ways. So this bike is far and above more powerful than my 650 was, but it's got this weird it's this weird behavior pattern where it feels like it's going to stall at very low RPMs. So when I'm pulling out of a stop or coming out of a stop sign or traffic light, I can't leave the RPMs all the way at the bottom. I've got to give it a little bit of gas while I feather out the clutch, which is very different from the way my Honda worked. I mean, you could essentially just let out the clutch and barely give it any gas at all, and it would go, and it felt like it had power behind it. Whereas this new 3-cylinder engine in the MT-09, it feels like it needs to be up a little further in the rev range before it becomes responsive. And I don't mean like it's a dog down low, just here, coming around a stop sign. But as soon as I roll on the throttle and we get over 3,000 RPMs, it just pulls. And I've got this in drive mode 2. I was playing with that on my way home last night. I had it in drive mode 4, and it just felt like a dog. It's the most aggressive traction control and engine performance that the bike has. So think of drive mode 4 as like rain mode, and it felt even less powerful than my CB. So partway home, I changed it to drive mode 3, and 3 is still fairly aggressive on how it minimizes engine output or power output. And drive mode 2 is where I have it now. Still got to get used to those initial starts. and it feels pretty good. I mean, there is some power management going on. I think Yamaha considers it moderate. Drive mode 1 is mild performance adjustment, and drive mode, I think you can just turn it outright off, or maybe 1 is the lowest, which is sporty, you know, whatever I'm gonna call it. It's also got 2 different traction control modes. I've got it on traction control mode 2, which is the most aggressive. You know, being that I just bought the bike less than 24 hours ago, I just kind of want to ease my way into it. I also want to follow the break-in procedure that Yamaha recommends, so I'm not going to be like pouncing on this thing. And it's got another, I forget what it's called. There's another traction control mode that maybe that's what 2 is, where it's more sensitive when it detects the bike is at a lean as opposed to when it's vertical. And then there's slide control and lift control, and this bike's got an awful lot of stuff. Also has a quick shifter up and down, which it's fun to play with because I've never had anything like that. But that also takes a little getting used to. You know, when I bought this bike, because I had been waiting on it to be delivered for so long, you know, I didn't get a chance to sit on one and play with one. My order was based solely, or my decision was based solely on the fact that I had done a ton of research on them, and I felt like I knew what I wanted. So I was confident in putting my deposit down and placing the order. So yesterday was my real first time on the bike, and I was surprised. I was really expecting this as a 900 to be heavier than my Honda, but it doesn't feel it at all. It feels actually considerably lighter. It's better balanced. I was talking to the sales guy about that during my wait, and he had mentioned that a lot of that has to do with the shape of the engine, or the angle of the engine, and how low it sits in the frame, which makes it balance well. So I'm really happy with it. Sits a bit taller, and not that my CB650F was sporty, but the riding position was slightly leaned forward, and it gave it a sporty-esque feel for a naked sport bike. And this is much more upright, and it just feels more like a standard. Not that the CB wasn't, but I just feel more upright. My legs feel like they're in a more neutral position. My arms feel like they're in a more neutral position. I'm not leaning forward. I don't feel like I have any weight bearing on my arms or my wrists because of the orientation of the controls and whatnot. And it makes it, well, again, you know, in a very mild sort of way, not as sporty feeling, but more comfortable. So I'm curious how far I'll be able to ride on this bike before I start feeling like I need to take a break. With my Honda, I could do about 100 miles, and at that point, well, I mean, 100 miles on back roads, so that translates to a couple of hours. And at that point, I would really need to get off. My hips would be getting stiff, my arms would start to get stiff, and I need to get off and stretch. So I'm really curious how this is going to work on longer trips, because first impression is that it feels more comfortable. Into neutral. So, you know, there's not a whole lot to say about it first impressions wise that you're going to find very valuable, because obviously you know, what good is one guy's opinion having had ridden the bike for, you know, less than 20 miles. In fact, it's probably less than 10 miles at this point. So, if you're new to the channel, stick around. I'll be showing off this new MT-09 SP quite a bit in the coming months. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ride safe, and I will catch you in the next one.